Star Wars Outlaws is one of the most impressive bits of Star Wars media I've seen in a long time, and as someone who holds the original trilogy in high regard, I adored having the chance to feel a part of that world. Admittedly, I was skeptical when I heard Ubisoft were going to be producing a Star Wars game, not because I thought it couldn't be done, it just felt like an odd departure from the more grounded worlds of Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, or Ghost Recon. However, after playing the game for a few hours, I feel like I can confidently say Ubisoft is cooking with this one, and I can't wait to see how the rest of the game holds up when it launches in August. My preview took me on a whistle-stop tour of the game's story, open world, starship exploration, and the more close-knit communities found in the Outer Rim. It's refreshing to have a story set in the Outer Rim, as usually the edge of the Star Wars galaxy serves as more of a side quest area rather than a pivotal location in the story. This matters because the Outer Rim is where most of the character is, filled with backwater worlds just trying to survive in any way they can. That's where Kay Vess comes in, a new character determined to find her place in the universe and make enough credits to live a free life, with her adorable sidekick critter Nyx. Kay is quick-witted, resourceful, talented, and most importantly, she's not a Force user. When she's in trouble, she can't wave her hand and Jedi mind trick her way out of a conflict, and I love that as it makes both herself and the worlds you explore feel that little bit more relatable. Speaking of the worlds, from what I played, I want to say that Star Wars Outlaws is the closest any Star Wars game has gotten to making you feel like you're in the films. As you walk through the streets, characters will be chatting, arguing, placing bets, peddling goods, or tending to droids. The game felt alive, and the best part is it didn't stop. This wasn't some scripted showcase designed to introduce you to the new location. It felt just as lifelike on my first visit as it did on my 10th. I'll never forget the feeling of strolling into the cantina for the first time and instantly having flashbacks to the Mos Eisley scene in episode 4. They're not just sets either. They contain NPCs who'll give you jobs to do, and you can listen into conversations to learn more about the planet and what else it might offer. Some even have a game parlor where you can play Sabacc, a high-stakes card game that I lost a good 30 minutes to because it was just that much fun. The best way to describe my time with the worlds of Star Wars Outlaws is it showed me rather than told me. I could see from walking around the affluence or lack thereof of the different districts, and who held the majority of the power based on what kind of troops were marching around. It's one of the most fluid and dynamic Star Wars games I've ever seen, and it was great to be part of a galaxy that actually felt like it was lived in. This extended into the exploration and combat as well. I could only explore one planet during my time with the game, but even after 3 hours of zooming around on a speeder bike, it still didn't feel like I'd scratched the surface of what there was to see, whether it was ramping up my wanted level, racing other speeder bikes, or just taking in the sights of the alien sky. The open world gameplay felt compelling, but never outstayed its welcome. It felt just the right size too, big enough where it feels there's a lot to see, but not too big where it's a pain to traverse. The game had major Uncharted meets Red Dead Redemption energy, whilst making you feel like you were part of the films. More talented players could probably sneak through entire missions without being caught, but for those players whose stealth is not their strong suit, you'll find blasting away to be just as effective, if not a little more challenging. My average encounter felt like that bit in A New Hope, where Luke, Han and Chewie infiltrate the Death Star, all going well until one minor slip-up led to firefight after firefight. Both the stealth and action were incredibly fun, mostly because of Kay's trusty companion Nyx. The little critter isn't there just to look cute, he's also an integral part of your survival. Kay can command Nyx to open doors, distract enemies, set off explosives, fetch weapons, and more. One of my favourite manoeuvres was encountering a stormtrooper duo, sending Nyx to attack one while I took down the other. During shootouts, he's most useful when he's bringing you back powerful weapons the enemies have dropped, like heavy blasters and grenade launchers. Also, yes, you can pet him and he loves it. Flying your starship was also good fun, and if you've played Star Wars Battlefront 2 or Star Wars Squadrons, you'll get the hang of the controls almost instantly as they are basically the same. As you progress through the game, you'll find vendors who can upgrade your ship for a price, as well as others who can upgrade your blaster or speeder. You'll also put together your own crew, with my favourite being none other than the oddly fit droid, ND5, who made sparing appearances throughout my demo, but stole the show every time. The last thing worth touching on is the faction system. As any Star Wars fan will tell you, the Outer Rim is a wretched hive of scum and villainy, and while the Empire is in charge, it's the crime syndicates that hold the most power that far out into the galaxy. During missions, the player is given a choice of either helping or sabotaging some of these factions, and I was surprised to see just how important these decisions were. Every faction tends to have some kind of hideout, and if your standing with them is good, you can walk in and out with no eyebrows raised, which is great if another faction has tasked you with stealing from them. On the other hand, if your standing is bad, it'll be a area, meaning you'll have to sneak in if you want anything from them. And if you encounter them out in the open world, they'll shoot you on sight. From mission to mission, it seemed like the factions you sided with the most could be important later down the line, so I'll be interested to see what impact they have on the late game story. So far, Star Wars Outlaws has completely blown me away. I was thoroughly impressed with the level of detail Ubisoft has seemingly put into the game, and even more so how seamless everything seemed to fit into the existing Star Wars canon. I only saw 2 planets during the preview, as well as a few bonus areas, and even after several hours, it felt like there was so much more to see and do. Hopefully the full game builds off those opening few hours, and I'm excited to see how the rest of K, Nyx and ND5 stories shape out, as well as what surprises await on the game's other planets.